everybody, I am Jay Shady, the voice of reason, and it's time to talk about WrestleMania 15. I just got finished watching this show. This is the first time I've seen it since I watched it in 1999, in its whole entirety, and I gotta say, this is a rough show. This is a bad show, really not good. For me, personally, in my opinion, 1999 was just kind of a rough year. It had good moments, no doubt about it, but I also had a lot of problems with it, especially looking back on it in 2013. For me, the best of the Attitude Era will always be 1997 and 1998. In those 2 years, it felt fresh, it felt like something new, it felt just grittier, it was more basic, and it just had a lot more realistic elements to it. Whereas 1999 and onwards in the Attitude Era, I don't know, to me it just lost a lot of its juice, a lot of the freshness, that made it so different in 97 and 98. I felt like they were trying to go too overboard without worrying about the content itself. They were just trying to do shock value things without worrying about the meaning of it. I felt like a lot of stuff was just way too over the top. You have Big Boss Man here hanging by a noose when the cell is raising in the match. And a lot of the stuff was just too much Vince Russo style booking. There's no problem with Vince Russo style booking in limited doses and equal amounts, but when every match is booked that way, which I feel like a lot of the later Attitude Era after 1998 was, I feel like that's where you start getting your problems, and it starts running its course and it becomes too almost comical at points. I'm not bashing the whole Attitude Era. Of course, it's one of the most influential times in wrestling history. It's my favorite era. But a lot of the stuff, if you want to admit it or not, and Attitude Era is my favorite era, and I'm not scared to admit it, a lot of the stuff just was a little way too over the top, and it just got a little too much to handle. That's why I feel like 97, 98, for me personally, were the most exciting times for the Attitude Era. It was just fresh. It was real. It was bare bones. It wasn't all this crazy shit just for the sake of doing crazy shit. So let me talk about this card. The opening match was Hardcore Holly versus Billy Gunn versus Al Snow in a triple threat hardcore match for the Hardcore Championship. This wasn't a good match. You're not going to get a wrestling match in a hardcore match, but it was just guys like hitting each other with whatever objects they could find, but you didn't even have really good hardcore shit in here. It was just, I don't know, it was lacking something. This WrestleMania the whole show just felt lackluster. There was just some feeling that I just didn't get from this whole WrestleMania experience. A lot of the stuff was just there. It was just very passable, like shit that you just don't remember. That's why I haven't really gone back to watch this whole WrestleMania in its entirety until now. But yeah, this wasn't a good match. It ends with Hardcore Holly winning the championship from Billy Gunn. He gets the pinfall. So not a good opening match, but they did do some hardcore shit, but I wasn't crazy about it. Then you got Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett versus D'Lo Brown and Test for the tag team championship. Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett had the titles. This was like 4 minutes long. This wasn't good. Like, there's nothing really to talk about here. It just happens and goes away. Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett get the win. Owen Hart does a missile drop kick to D'Lo, and Jeff Jarrett gets the pin. Yeah, this just was there. Then you get the Brawl for All boxing match between Butterbean and Bart Gunn. And this match lasted 30 seconds, but it took them like 15 minutes to set this whole match up. That was my problem with it. You had so much time setting up this match, and then just for the match itself to be fucking 30 seconds, it's just Bart Gunn knocking, Billy Gunn, Butterbean knocking Bart Gunn out in 30 seconds, and he wins the Brawl for All. I said this in another video, I don't like when wrestling, WWE tries to put other sports into their product. It's like, you're a wrestling show, you should just stick to wrestling. So yeah, I didn't like this at all. Then you got Mankind versus The Big Show. And the winner of this match would be the special guest referee for the main event. This was a bad match. This was just stupid, and it just made no sense. It was just illogical. So you have Big Show and Mankind beating each other with chairs outside the ring. And then Big Show does a choke slam to Mankind inside the ring onto some chairs, and he gets disqualified. What? You know, when Big Show was hitting Mankind with the chair, I figured it was no disqualification because the ref didn't ring the bell. But apparently, like, when you do a choke slam on a chair, that's a disqualification. Beating somebody up with the chair, that's fine though. It's like, why did you do a disqualification after fucking 5 chair shots? Did that make sense at all? This was stupid. You know, ending a match in a disqualification at WrestleMania. Here we go again. This was just a bad match and the dumbest ending. Just, it made no sense. Mankind gets the win by disqualification, so he's going to be the special guest referee. But in the storyline, he gets too hurt that he has to go to the hospital, so he can't be the special guest referee at the moment. Then you get Road Dogg versus Ken Shamrock versus Goldust versus Val Venus in a 4 corners elimination match for the Intercontinental Championship. And I thought this was definitely one of the better matches of the night. I enjoyed this. I thought this was good. It wasn't great or anything, but it definitely was enjoyable. A lot better than all the other stuff on here. You had one of the stupid things. You had Ken Shamrock and Val Venus brawling outside the ring, and they both get counted out, so they're eliminated from the match. Like, if you're fighting for a title, wouldn't you listen to the ref fucking counting? Wouldn't you, like, be sure to get in the ring before 10? But yeah, it comes down to Road Dogg and Goldust, and Road Dogg gets the win with some kind of reversal and pin, so he retains the Intercontinental Championship. This was a good match. Not great, nothing too good, but definitely a lot better than the rest of the stuff on the card. Then you got Kane versus Triple H. And this had a really fun storyline going into it. And that's the thing about 1999. The matches themselves are not very good. And you had some good storylines happening. But even though some of the storylines were over the top, but the thing watching these matches, you're not experiencing some of the good storylines that are actually happening before these matches. I thought Kane versus Triple H was an entertaining storyline where they were shooting fireballs into each other's eyes. But this match did not live up to the storyline. It was really bad. It was just so slow. Just nothing happening at all. Just a really slow match. I felt like I was watching, a 2013 Raw match. It was really bad. But you had your ending with, at the time, Triple H and Chyna were separated. Chyna was with Kane and the corporation. And then Chyna turns her back on Kane, and she hits Kane in the back with a chair and rejoins with Triple H and D-Generation X. So Triple H gets disqualified and Kane gets the win by disqualification. Like, you have a shitty match and then a shitty ending. And then you have, DX getting back together. That's cool. That's awesome. But even that, it doesn't pan out, as you will find out when I talk about the match coming up in a couple of minutes right here. Then you get Sable versus Tori for the Women's Championship. This was a bad match. Tori was wearing, like, Giant Gonzalez's fucking bodysuit. And Tori botched like every fucking move that she did. This was horrible. Sable gets the win. That fucking butch chick, Nicole Bass, beats the shit out of Tori, and then Sable does a Sable bomb and picks up the victory to retain the Women's Championship. This was horrible. Here's the DX match that I was going to talk about. Shane McMahon versus X-Pac for the WWF European Championship. Shane McMahon was holding the title at the time. This was good in the ring, but I just had a big problem with all the interference. Every 30 seconds, you had Test, who was ringside with Shane McMahon, interfering and beating up X-Pac. Just this Vince Russo style booking with all this interference, all this overbooking, all this nonsense happening, taken away from the match itself. This was a very big problem at this point for the company. Just way too much interference in this match, but the match itself was good, but I was just blinded by all the beatdowns that Test was giving X-Pac throughout this whole match. But then you have your memorable finish, which memorable for bad reasons in my opinion. Triple H and Chyna look like they're going to come and save X-Pac, but they turn their back on X-Pac and they pedigree X-Pac and help Shane McMahon get the win to retain the belt. So this version of DX, they were going on for 1 full year now. You just had them all get back together with Chyna reuniting with Triple H, and you break them up? I mean, you have DX. They were just, this is their 1 year anniversary. It's only been 1 year. Arguably, definitely one of the most marketable and fan favorite groups of all time. And that's it. You just have them break up like this, and Triple H goes heel. I guess Triple H just wanted to, get into his own spotlight, not be surrounded by other people, his big ego. But in my opinion, you had your DX reunions a bunch of fucking times after this. But in my opinion, after this, DX was just never the same again. This just totally destroyed DX in my eyes. I mean, the fans were so hot for DX here, and you break them up. Big mistake on the WWF's part, in my opinion. Then you get The Undertaker versus Big Boss Man in a Hell in a Cell match. And this is one of the worst Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen in my life. Just nothing happens in this match. Really, nothing. I hated this match even as a kid. It's just a bunch of striking and slow brawling, like no wrestling moves. I have no problem with brawling, but it was all slow, like striking like every 30 seconds. And very tame, especially for a Attitude Era Hell in a Cell match. This was a very tame Hell in a Cell match. Well, besides the ending that went way too over the top. But basically, Undertaker does the tombstone to Big Boss Man, gets the victory. And then the Brood, Gangrel Edge, and Christian come down from the ceiling, and they slip a noose down the cell, and Undertaker hangs Big Boss Man. So the cell raises, and Big Boss Man's dangling there dead. This was just going way too fucking far. I have no problem with being controversial and being cutting and edgy and racy, but this was just getting stupid and silly, and it just looked... I don't know. I mean, I love the Attitude Era, but some of this stuff you can criticize, because this was just... This just went too far for me. Then you got the main event. Thank God for the main event. This is the thing that saved the show from being a total fucking disaster. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock in a no disqualification match for the WWF Championship. You had Vince McMahon announcing that he was going to be the special guest referee. Then Shawn Michaels comes out and tells him that he can't assign that. Only Shawn Michaels, who was the commissioner at the time, could assign the referee. So he tells Vince McMahon to get the fuck out. So, Mike Chioda is going to be the referee. And you get the match. And epic match. Great fucking match. The first encounter of many memorable matches. Great brawling right from the start. Everybody was amped up. They took it to the crowd. They took it to the entrance ramp. Just that fucking brutal spot where Rock does a back body drop to Austin, and he hits his the back of his knee on this metal structure that's holding the lamp lights. Oh man, that looked fucking rough. Slamming him into the WrestleMania 15 sign. Just hardcore fucking brawling, just Attitude Era awesomeness. Then they take the action back to the ring. Austin does the elbow to The Rock through the announce table. A bunch of kicking outs, a bunch of near falls. You had like 5 fucking referees end up being in this match. One of them got a rock bottom. The other, I forgot, all of them get the shit beating out of them. Eventually, Vince McMahon comes down and he starts beating up Austin with The Rock. And then Mankind comes back, from the hospital, and he beats up Vince McMahon, so he's there to do the refereeing. And it ends with a good segment with the guys reversing a couple moves, and Stone Cold finally does the Stone Cold Stunner, gets the pin 1, 2, 3 to win the WWF Championship from The Rock. Great match, great main event match with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Like I said, the first of many memorable matches between these guys. Great post-match segment with Stone Cold beating up Vince McMahon. The crowd was crazy for this. Stone Cold drinking beers, toasting the beer to the belt. Great stuff. If it wasn't for this match, this would be a horrible, horrible just WrestleMania, just like with no redeeming qualities. But this main event definitely helped out a lot. I'm going to give this show a 4 out of 10. You had some okay stuff on here. You had the the Four Corners Elimination match was okay. It was good. I liked it. Also, the European Championship match. The in-ring stuff was okay, but the outside interference really ruined the match for me. But still, the stuff between Shane and X-Pac was good. And the main event match was fucking awesome and epic and Attitude Era at its finest. So 4 out of 10, Not a good WrestleMania. Really not. If you're an Attitude Era fan and you're going to bash me for, criticizing the Attitude Era, just really think about the stuff that I said in this video. And I love the Attitude Era. Like I said, it's my favorite era. But really, at this point, just too much overkill for me happening in the company, and it really made me just like lose the passion that I had as a wrestling fan at the time. I started getting a little bored with the product. But you still had great stuff like the Ministry and the Austin saving Stephanie, but Vince setting it all up, and you know the Kane and Triple H thing was fun, and then Kane and X-Pac joining together was fun. So you still did have some good stuff. But yeah, there you go. There's my review. I'm Jay Shady, the voice of reason. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.